Welcome to the Commission on Sports Management Accreditation webinar series. Today's webinar is the second in a series of 3 webinars. Our topic today is COSMA Principles 3 through 6, Curriculum, Faculty, Scholarly, and Professional Activities and Resources. The remaining webinar in the series will take place on February 10th. You will receive information on registering for this webinar as it becomes available. My name is Carly Braxton, and I'd like to thank you for joining us today. First, let's make sure that your audio is working properly. Be sure you have the correct audio mode selected on your GoToWebinar control panel located on the right of your screen. Select Use Telephone if you'll be calling in, or select Use Mic and Speakers if you'll be listening through your computer. Due to the large number of participants for this webinar, your phone and/or microphone have been muted. If you need technical assistance throughout the webinar, please call 1-800-263-6317. Be sure to write this number down and keep it in front of you in case you encounter any problems along the way. During the webinar, if you have any questions or comments, please type them in the question box that is located on the bottom of your GoToWebinar control panel. We will collect questions throughout the presentation and answer as many as possible during the question and answer session near the end of the webinar. This webinar will be recorded and archived on the COSMA website along with the first webinar in the series. Instructions to access the recording will be emailed to you following the webinar. Now I'd like to go ahead and introduce our speaker for today's webinar, Heather Alderman. Heather is the Executive Director of COSMA. So take it away, Heather.
Thank you very much, Carly. And thanks to everybody for joining us. In today's training session, we will review Principles 3 through 6, Curriculum, Faculty, Scholarly, and Professional Activities and Resources. This follows up on our discussion last month on the accreditation process, outcomes assessment, and strategic planning. As with last month's webinar, I'm happy to answer any questions you have about your specific programs throughout the session. As you can see on this slide, the benefits of accreditation are many and include your access to me as a dedicated staff person, free training such as this webinar series, and a mechanism for external accountability, continuous improvement, and program advocacy. To review from last month's webinar, the accreditation process is comprised of the following steps. First is membership, and this includes submitting basic information about your program and the annual membership fee of $1,800. I prorate this fee depending on when you join. The next step is candidacy status. We reviewed this in significant detail last month, so I won't go into any detail today. Third is writing the self-study. This is what we started last month to talk about and will also be the focus of today's training. Fourth is establishing the timeline for your site visit. The self-study document must be submitted at least 90 days prior to your site visit, and the site visit must occur at least 90 days prior to one of the 2 face-to-face meetings of the Board of Commissioners. So for example, if the board meets in late May, your site visit needs to occur no later than late February, and you must submit your self-study no later than late November of the previous year. Fifth, the site visit is usually led by 2 reviewers and lasts approximately 2 days. And last, an accreditation decision is made by the Board of Commissioners at either of their 2 face-to-face meetings in November or May or June of each year. These are the 8 COSMA accreditation principles, and as I said, we discussed outcomes assessment and strategic planning in the first webinar, and today I will discuss curriculum, faculty, scholarly, and professional activities and resources. Principles 7 through 8, internal and external relationships and educational innovation, I will discuss in the third and final webinar on February 10th, along with a review of the site visit process. Principle 3 is composed of 7 parts, as you can see, and we will discuss each one in depth. All right, 3.1, Program Design. As an outcomes-based accrediting body, COSMA takes a flexible approach to program design and recognizes the rapidly changing world of sport management education, in which programs are designed for delivery through multiple formats, including face-to-face, online, and blended methods. So for this principle, you are asked to list each academic degree offered through or administered by your department and provide the number of degrees conferred during the self-study year and the previous 2 academic years. If you use different delivery methods, you would show this information for each delivery method. Next, you provide enrollment information, which includes the total enrollment of your institution, the total enrollment in your sport management program, and the total enrollment in each degree that you offer. Again, if different delivery methods are used, please show this information separately. Then you describe the contact hours required to earn 1 unit of academic credit for each of your sport management programs. And then you describe how many years, semesters, or quarters of full-time academic work are required to earn a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a doctoral degree if you have that, which would also include the dissertation. All right, now we come up on our first poll question about the common professional component.
All right, great. I'll go ahead and launch our first poll question here. Our first poll question is, what is the normal range for the number of contact hours for each CPC area? There are no minimum or maximum hours required. Minimum 20 hours, maximum 100 hours, minimum of 50 hours, maximum 65 hours, or none of the above. Go ahead and get your votes in. About 5 more seconds for votes, everyone. Okay, we'll go ahead and close our poll now and see our results. We have 58% who said there is no minimum or maximum hours required, 8%, minimum 20 hours, maximum 100 hours, 17%, minimum 50 hours, maximum 65 hours, and 17% say none of the above.
Okay, well, the correct answer is A. There are no minimum or maximum hours required in the CPC table. The purpose of this table is to ensure that the CPC topic areas are covered in undergraduate sport management degree programs. COSMA does not expect that all of the CPC areas will be covered equally. It is your responsibility to provide an appropriate rationale for any significant CPC variations. You need to identify where the topical areas in the CPC are covered in your required course offerings. And this requires that you first complete an abbreviated course syllabus for each course, and a sample of that is provided in the appendix of the principal's document. And this abbreviated course syllabus should include a course outline that specifies the CPC coverage in that course. Because a course may simultaneously cover multiple topics, for example, consumer behavior might be covered in a marketing course and also may count toward psychological foundations. It is normal for the total hours of CPC coverage in a course to exceed the actual number of scheduled student contact hours. The normal range for the contact hour totals for an individual course is about 50 to 65 in a semester program, although some integrative courses may be higher. And the normal range for contact hour totals for a CPC area is from approximately 20 to over 100 in a semester program. In both of these cases, the assumption involves 3-hour courses with 45 class contact hours during a semester. So on this slide, you can see the various topic areas that are considered to be the key content areas in the sport management field. For undergraduate programs, the common professional component is comprised of your undergraduate sport management core, which represents the required sport management courses in an undergraduate major. The CPC consists of topical areas in sport management as listed on the previous slide. So you need to identify where the topical areas in the CPC are covered in your required course offerings. All right, so in the self-study, as I said, you would complete abbreviated course syllabi for each required course, and then you would complete a separate CPC table, or table number 1, for each undergraduate degree program that you have that has a different sport management core. So this would include any interdisciplinary or specialized degree programs that have substantial sport management content. If you are seeking COSMA accreditation for any of these type of interdisciplinary or specialized degree programs that don't cover all the CPC topical areas, you would provide a rationale for this variation in the CPC coverage. And to obtain full CPC credit for required courses in majors or concentrations over and above your undergraduate sport management core, you would develop a separate CPC table for each major or concentration. So if you have a required course in your undergraduate sport management core that is taught by an academic department outside of your sport management program, you would prepare that syllabus or those syllabi and include it with the contact hours in this section of the self-study. And for master's and doctoral programs, this requirement does not apply. So here is a sample table that summarizes the contact hours for all required courses in an undergraduate sport management core. And it also shows the summary of the CPC topical areas covered in each course. This information comes directly from the recap section in the syllabus. In general, this matrix is an excellent way to review the academic content of your degree program and can help reveal its strengths and weaknesses. A lower number than average can tell you something useful. All right, we're moving on to 3.3, General Education. In bachelor's degree programs, general education requirements consist primarily of liberal arts and related courses. Courses offered within the sport management program, such as information technology as an example, also may be appropriately included in this category of general education. Please have on file and make available for site visit evaluators curriculum sheets, degree plans, degree audit forms, or other documents that reflect the general education requirements that are being fulfilled for graduation. So in the self-study, you will complete Table 2, the undergraduate curriculum composition, and I will show you an example of that. And you will identify the catalog page numbers that contain the descriptions of each of your sport management programs. So if you're an international institution without US-based regional accreditation, you should contact me for additional information on how to respond to this principle. And like 3.2, for master's and doctoral programs, this principle does not apply. Here is a sample of what Table 2 looks like. It shows the total number of credit hours required for a sport management degree at the bachelor's level, subdivided into the total number of student credit hours to meet the institution's general education requirements, and the total hours of sport management course requirements. In this sample, you see that the general education requirements and the sport management core course requirements are 1/3 of the total number of courses each, and the remaining third is split up by general electives and other required courses beyond the core. All right, 3.4 is breadth and depth of curriculum. An undergraduate degree program should have content-specific courses taught specifically in sport management and require appropriate prerequisites and offer students the opportunity to demonstrate their breadth and depth of knowledge in the area of sport management. So for undergraduate programs, you would use Table 2 to show the percentage of sport management courses that are required to earn a bachelor's degree. These courses include the core, the required courses beyond the core, and elective courses. If any of your degree programs require less than 25% sport management courses, you would provide the rationale for that. And again, this principle does not apply to master's and degrees and doctoral programs. All right, 3.5 is curriculum review and improvement. The sport management faculty should participate in the continuous review of the curricula and recommend changes and improvements as deemed appropriate. It is essential that the assessment of student learning outcomes be used in this review process. In addition, periodic surveys should be conducted of graduates and the employers of interns or graduates to obtain information with which to assess the success of degree programs in meeting the needs of students and the demands of employers. The results of the review and assessments should be used to identify the changes and improvements that are needed, if any, in your academic program. So in the self-study, you describe your process of continuous evaluation of the sport management courses, and this description should include any explanation of the ways in which outcomes assessment supports curriculum review and improvement in your program. You should document the involvement of your faculty in the periodic review of your degree programs and curricula. Describe how your alumni, the sport management community, and any other outside groups are involved in the periodic review of your programs. Describe the extent to which the sport management faculty is involved in the evaluation of the institution's general education program, and describe the process for changing your curriculum or developing a new degree program for your sport management program. And if this process is described in your faculty handbook, just provide the page numbers for that. All right, next we're going to review the master's degree curriculum requirements. The requirement that the graduate courses be beyond the level of the undergraduate CPC courses means that the courses should be graduate level advanced courses in sport management. For students entering the graduate sport management program who have not completed an undergraduate sport management degree, there must be some mechanism in place to prepare the students for graduate level sport management courses. So in the self-study, you list all of the graduate degrees that your program administers and provide a copy of the stated curricular requirements for these degrees. You also need to identify the required number of course credit hours of graduate level work beyond the undergraduate CPC for each of your graduate programs in sport management. Next, you identify which of your graduate level courses are not reserved exclusively for graduate students and provide the rationale for this procedure where applicable. And last, you describe the ways in which you are handling the coverage of the undergraduate CPC topics for non-sport management bachelor students entering your graduate sport management program. And just so you are aware, it is not necessary to prepare a separate CPC coverage table for your graduate courses. Next is the doctoral curriculum. And I know not many of you have doctoral programs, but I will review this anyway. The degree requirements for the doctoral degree must require scholarly and professional activities designed to advance the student substantially beyond the educational accomplishments of a master's level degree program. In addition, professional ethics relevant to the purpose of the degree should be emphasized. COSMA expects that the curriculum of accredited doctoral degree programs will be appropriate to the goals of the program and will contribute to the development of doctoral degree students into individuals capable of contributing to the academy. All doctoral courses should be rigorous and challenging. While it is acceptable for doctoral students to take some master's level courses in a doctoral program, a substantial percentage of the required coursework should be in courses reserved for doctoral students. In addition, doctoral education requires a substantial research component, including courses in statistical and research methods and a requirement for a rigorous research project, such as a thesis or dissertation. So in the self-study, you describe the ways in which the curricula for your doctoral programs contribute to the professional and scholarly development of your doctoral students. Include a description of the ways in which ethical principles are reinforced through the curricula and administrative policies of your program. You need to provide a syllabus for all doctoral courses, and you can place these in the appendix of your self-study. Provide an analysis of the curricular requirements for the program. This analysis should list each course and indicate whether the course is reserved for doctoral students and should provide the percentage of courses in the degree program that can only be taken by students enrolled in the doctoral program. You describe the research components in the degree program and indicate what percentage of the total hours required for the degree program include courses in statistical and research methods and in a rigorous research project like a thesis or dissertation. Next, you describe any areas of specialization taught within the doctoral program. You provide a copy of your dissertation manual, and this manual should describe the dissertation process, including required courses, composition of the dissertation committee, requirements for the dissertation, etc. And last, you should describe the ways in which you're handling the coverage of the undergraduate CPC topics for non-sport management bachelor students that enter your graduate sport management program. All right, that concludes Principle 3, and we move on now to Principle 4, Faculty, which is composed of 6 elements, which I will review in detail. All right, 4.1 is Faculty Qualifications. I'm going to talk about this in 2 parts. First, I will discuss how faculty portfolios are evaluated to determine whether the individuals are doctorally, professionally, or minimally qualified. So to be considered doctorally qualified at the undergraduate level, a faculty member may hold an earned doctorate in sport management or a sport management related field, hold a JD and teach in the areas of legal environment of sport management, or hold an out-of-field doctorate along with a sufficient combination of graduate coursework in the area of their assigned teaching responsibilities, professional experience, scholarly achievements, and extensive, substantial, documented, successful teaching experience at the college level. To be considered professionally qualified, a faculty member may be ABD, which means they've completed all their coursework required for a doctoral program. They've passed the general comprehensive exams, but they have not completed a dissertation. And they should have a major, minor, or concentration in the area of their assigned teaching responsibilities. Or they could hold a master's degree in sport management and have 5 or more years of professional and management experience in work that is directly related to their assigned teaching responsibilities. They should also have extensive and substantially documented successful teaching experiences in the area of their assigned teaching responsibilities, and demonstrate involvement in meaningful research or programs for the enhancement of their pedagogical skills. Or they could also hold a master's degree in a sport management related field and have completed a special postgraduate training program that's designed to improve their knowledge and teaching skills in whatever area of that is their assigned teaching responsibilities. And last, minimum qualifications for faculty members would be a master's degree in a field that is appropriate to their assigned teaching responsibilities. You can make an exception to this minimum requirement really only in emergency cases or special situations where the faculty member has unique qualifications to meet a specialized need. And we would need to see a written explanation for a situation like this. Okay, next I will move into the second section about faculty qualifications. Full-time and part-time faculty members teaching courses in the sport management program need to be accounted for in responding to this principle. The definition of full-time faculty includes full-time visiting professors, full-time adjunct faculty, and full-time faculty with administrative loads like department chairs. Part-time faculty includes adjuncts, administrative, and staff teaching on an adjunct basis, and full-time faculty from other units that teach part-time in your program. All faculty who teach sport management coded courses must be included. So in the self-study, you would identify the catalog page numbers that describe the academic credentials of each of your full and part-time faculty members. You would provide a current vita for all of your sport management faculty members, which you would place in the appendix of the self-study. You would prepare and submit Table 3, the faculty qualifications table, and then you would also prepare and submit either Tables 4, 5, or 6, teaching load and student credit hours generated. And you also would prepare Table 7, the faculty coverage summary. And I will now review each of these tables that I just mentioned. First, actually, this is just a sample of a vita outline that you would be able to follow if you wish, but it is not required. All right, this is Table 3, Faculty Qualifications. All faculty who teach sport management coded courses must be included, with full and part-time faculty members listed separately in alphabetical order. When a faculty member teaches at more than one program level, list each program level on a separate line under the heading Program Level. In determining whether a faculty member is doctorally, professionally, or minimally qualified, you would use the definitions that I described to you that are listed in Principle 4.1. Okay, here's an example of the teaching load and student credit hours generated table. There are 3 example versions of this table in the principles document. Table 4 is for institutions with only undergraduate sport management programs. Table 5 is for institutions that have undergraduate and master's degree programs, and Table 6 is for all 3, including doctoral programs. So you only submit one table, and you just use the form that's appropriate to your situation. So in preparing the appropriate table, the full and part-time faculty members should be shown alphabetically and grouped separately. The table should account for all student credit hours taught in the sport management program during the self-study period, both the required and elective sport management courses taught. You determine the qualification level of each faculty member for the course taught, and totals by faculty qualification level are shown, as well as the total for undergraduate, master's, and doctoral level student credit hours. If you operate on a quarter system, you can modify the table to include 3 quarters rather than 2 semesters. This table should also include the number of sections, course preparations, and disciplines taught by each faculty member. Okay, now we will talk about the minimum number of faculty that you need for your program in the second poll.
Great. I'll go ahead and launch our second poll. The question is, what is the minimum number of faculty I need for my program? Please select one of the answers there on your screen. Our answers are 0, 2, 5, and there are no minimum requirements. Go ahead and submit your votes. Okay, about 5 more seconds for votes, everyone. All right, we'll close the poll and see our results. So it looks like 73% said there are no minimum requirements, 7% say 5, and 20% say 2.
Okay, very interesting. Well, the correct answer is the one where that 3/4 of you got. COSMA does not specify the number of faculty needed. Your program is evaluated on faculty load, program coverage, and resource allocation, which shows whether you have enough faculty to effectively manage your program. And you'll see more information about this as we move along. Okay, here is Table 7, the faculty coverage summary. In completing this table, you only include the columns for the levels of the programs that your sport management degree offers, that you offer. For example, if you only offer an undergraduate program, you would delete the columns for the master's and doctoral credit hours. The data for this table comes directly from the totals in the either Table 4, 5, or 6, the faculty load and credit hour generation table. All right, 4.2, faculty load. The philosophy behind this principle is that excellence in teaching is related to appropriate faculty workloads. If workloads are excessive, it is likely that student learning outcomes, as measured by the outcomes assessment process, will not reach a sufficient level of excellence. So in the self-study, you need to state the institutional or sport management program policy that determines the normal teaching load of the full-time faculty, describe how the policies are administered in terms of overloads and extra pay for overloads, explain any variations between the academic load policies used in your program and other sport management programs, provide the policy on teaching loads for part-time or adjunct faculty, identify the documents that contain these policies and the page numbers where they're stated. You would refer to one of those tables, 4, 5, or 6, to explain any deviations between the actual teaching loads and then your program's load policy. You would list all faculty members who receive reductions in teaching load or for other professional responsibilities, and you indicate the amount of the reduction and the reason. And last, you explain how the faculty is sufficient to manage program operations and indicate how internships and student advising are handled. 4.3, program coverage. Faculty members should be deployed in a way as to give all students reasonable access to receive instruction from doctorally qualified and or professionally qualified full-time faculty. For each area of the CPC, at least one full-time faculty member who is doctorally qualified or professionally qualified should have oversight of the curriculum in that particular area. If an individual faculty member is doctorally qualified or professionally qualified in more than one area, it is possible for that faculty member to oversee multiple CPC areas. To show this, you prepare Table 8, Program Coverage, that indicates the name of at least one full-time doctorally or professionally qualified faculty member who has oversight of each area of the CPC. This principle, faculty evaluation, requires institutional justification of human resource decisions, based on the mission and broad-based goals of your program. The process used for faculty evaluations should be within the jurisdiction of your program and include a combination of student, peer, supervisor, and self-evaluation. The results of faculty evaluations should be shared with the individual faculty members being evaluated, and a record of these evaluations should be maintained in the faculty member's personnel file. The evaluation system should provide an opportunity for a faculty member to appeal the evaluation results. So in the self-study, you describe the faculty evaluation process for your program and how it is used to measure teaching and student learning effectiveness. If the process is described in the faculty handbook, provide the page numbers for this information. Provide copies of the instruments used in the evaluation process and evidence that these instruments are being used. The instruments should be placed in the appendix of the self-study. All right, 4.5, faculty development. Excellence in sport management education requires faculty to be current in their assigned field, to be engaged with the academic and sport management communities, and to continually seek to improve themselves as academic professionals. The institution should encourage and reward appropriate professional development through research grants, sabbaticals, leaves of absence, travel to professional meetings, student assistance, and clerical help for research projects. The institution should have appropriate policies for all aspects of professional development activities. So in the self-study, describe your faculty development program for your institution and for your program. If this information is contained in your faculty handbook, again, provide the page numbers. And demonstrate the effectiveness of your faculty development program by providing examples of the results of its implementation within your program. All right, 4.6, faculty policies. The faculty policies, procedures, and practices mentioned in the previous principle normally include such items as faculty development, tenure and promotion practices, evaluation procedures and criteria, workload policies, service policies, professional principles, scholarly principles, and termination and leave policies. So in the self-study, provide a copy of the faculty handbook, which should include institutional policies and practices for the faculty. If it's too bulky to include in the appendix, you can just send it as a separate document. That's totally fine. You would also describe how faculty are made aware of these policies and are notified of changes. All right, we are moving on now to Principle 5, scholarly and professional activities. Faculty should be involved in activities that enhance the depth and scope of their knowledge. The amount and type of involvement should be appropriate for the mission of the department and the level of programs that you offer. There are 4 types of scholarly activity. Teaching, which is knowledge of your field and how that information is conveyed effectively, and that could be shown through curriculum review and revision as an example. There's the scholarship of discovery, which could be considered basic research that contributes to the field and is disseminated. So for example, presenting a paper at a professional meeting would be considered discovery. Integration is bringing new insights on original research and fitting your work into larger intellectual patterns. An example of that might be textbook authoring. And the scholarship of application is the responsible application of knowledge to consequential problems. And an example of that might be doing consulting work. A professional activity is defined as providing professionally related services to individuals or organizations in the public or private sectors. So some examples of this could be routine professional consulting, attendance and participation in seminars or symposia and workshops, or membership in a professional organization. So for this principle, you will fill out Table 9, Scholarly and Professional Activities, by summarizing these activities for each full-time faculty member for the self-study year and the previous 4 years. Make sure that the dates for all of their activities are provided in their curriculum vitas. Supporting evidence for scholarly and professional activities should be readily available for the site visit team to review. Although they don't need to be included in the summary, a current vita reflecting scholarly and professional activities for all part-time and adjunct faculty should be available to the site visit team. All right, this slide just shows you the codes that you can use to put back into Table 9. All right, we are now moving to Principle 6, Resources, and it's composed of 5 sections. The philosophy behind this principle is that excellence in sport management education requires that appropriate resources be provided to the sport management programs, especially in relationship to the support provided to other academic units. The allocation of resources should be related to the specific mission and broad-based goals of your program. Adequate financial support for human resources, libraries, facilities, and equipment is essential. We will first talk about 6.1, financial resources. The resources allocated to your program should be sufficient to support all aspects of its activities. Student learning outcomes, as measured by the outcomes assessment process, may deteriorate if the resources allocated to your program are inadequate. So in the self-study for undergraduate and master's degree programs, you would first briefly describe the budget, development, and amendment processes of your institution, and this narrative should also include a description of the ways in which the results of your program's outcomes assessment plan are integrated into the budget process. You provide Table 10, educational and general expenditures. I'll show you an example of this after we talk about the rest of this list. You would list the number of support personnel, which are not faculty, in your program by their type of classification. You provide Table 11, salary ranges by rank, and again I'll show you an example of that. And where applicable, you would state the method of computation for extra pay of full-time faculty. You would state the rates of pay for part-time or adjunct faculty who are teaching sport management courses. You would identify the catalog page numbers that describe the tuition and fees for each academic program in sport management. And if you are an institution without U.S.-based regional accreditation, you would provide a copy of the audited financial statements for your institution. And for doctoral programs, you would describe the financial resources supporting the doctoral program in sport management. You would evaluate the sufficiency of these resources for accomplishing the mission and broad-based goals of your doctoral program. All right, here's Table 10. This table should provide data for your institution for the self-study year, the year prior to the self-study, and the budgeted amount for the site visit year. You may need your Chief Financial Officer's assistance in compiling this information. And this table, salary ranges by rank, should contain the actual full-time faculty salary ranges during the self-study year for each of the faculty ranks in your program. Do not include faculty who are on leave or on sabbatical and receiving a reduced rate during the period of absence. All right, we're at Principle 6.2, facilities. There should be a sufficient number of classrooms and computer labs of an appropriate size and quality to provide a high-quality educational environment. And full-time faculty should be provided with office space that allows them professional privacy. So in the self-study, you provide a narrative that describes the physical facilities such as classrooms, computer labs, and faculty offices that are available to the sport management students and faculty. Any plans for renovation of space or construction of new facilities associated with your programs should be mentioned in this narrative. Next, you identify the number and type of offices for faculty in Table 12, and an example is forthcoming, and include a narrative evaluating the adequacy of the office facilities. And last, you should evaluate the adequacy and proximity of the educational space in Table 13 and include a narrative evaluating the adequacy and proximity of the educational space available to your program. Last, the site visit team should be shown sport management classrooms and faculty offices, and usually this occurs during a campus tour. All right, here are tables 12 and 13. In Table 12, you identify the number and type of offices for the faculty, and in Table 13, you evaluate the adequacy and proximity of your educational space. All right, 6.3, learning resources. Library holdings should be sufficient in size and scope to complement the total instructional program, provide incentives for individual learning, and support appropriate scholarly and professional activities for the faculty. Evidence should exist that a focused and systematic acquisitions program is in operation, and that some form of faculty consultation and review is a continuing aspect of library acquisitions. For off-campus programs, there also should be adequate library support, which includes access to library facilities or electronic library access. Evidence should be available that off-campus students are provided library support for research and reading assignments comparable to that of the on-campus students. The site visit team will need to review the learning resources pertaining to the field of sport management and the annual budget for learning resources supporting sport management education. So in the self-study, you provide a list of the sport management related journals and databases available to students and faculty. You provide a general statement of the library support for the sport management programs, which would include interlibrary loan program, library support for faculty and students, and the acquisitions program, which includes any faculty consultation and review, and library support for off-campus programs. Last, you provide a narrative that assesses the adequacy of the learning resources available to your program to support high-quality sport management education. All right, we're moving to 6.4, Educational Technology and Support. Your institution should obtain, maintain, and support instructional and educational technology that is sufficient in quality and quantity to support all of its sport management programs. So in the self-study, you provide a description of the instructional and educational technology and support available to your sport management students and faculty. This description should address the following issues: the technology that's available in the classrooms used by your program, to students in computer labs and libraries, to faculty in their offices, at off-campus locations, and the technology that's available to support sport management students and faculty both on and off campus. And last, you provide an assessment of the instructional and educational technology available for sport management faculty and students. This review should include an assessment of the adequacy of technology support and a projection of future acquisitions. All right, 6.5, off-campus locations. Undergraduate and graduate off-campus sport management programs should have a comparable support to the on-campus programs. This support includes student access to full-time faculty, computers, and other learning resources, and student advising. So in the self-study, you list each of your sites and indicate the percentage of credit hours in sport management taught at each location. You describe the resources that are available at each off-campus location, and this description should include full-time faculty, financial resources, facilities, libraries, and equipment. Next, you provide a narrative that describes the ways in which you ensure that the quality of off-campus sport management programs and courses is comparable to the quality of the ones on campus. And for each off-campus instructional site, you provide a narrative that contains your assessment of the adequacy of resources that are available at that location to achieve excellence in teaching and learning and to accomplish the mission of your program at that location. All right, I have finished talking about principles 3 through 6, and I just want to remind you to submit your questions on curriculum, faculty, scholarly and professional activities, resources, or if you have any questions about outcomes assessment, strategic planning, I'm happy to answer anything that you're interested in asking me about. So we reviewed today the curriculum, including the CPC coverage that is required. For faculty, we talked about doctorally qualified versus professionally qualified faculty, teaching load, the coverage of the CPC areas, and the evaluation and development of policies for your faculty. And we reviewed what are considered scholarly and professional activities and the resources that are needed to adequately administer your program or programs. So you can continue this training in 2 weeks on February 10th at 1 o'clock, same time as today. I'm going to talk about the last 2 principles, internal and external relationships and educational innovation, and I will also talk about preparing for a site visit. Also, I will be doing this presentation live in person at the AFERD convention on Wednesday, March 14th from 8:30 in the morning until 12 in the afternoon. And for any of you who have come to one of those presentations before, we will review the entire accreditation process and self-study self-study writing process and talk a little bit about the site visit review process. All right, Carly, are there any questions?
We do have quite a few questions, so we'll go ahead and start our Q&A session. If anybody else has any questions, please feel free to go ahead and enter those in the question box on your GoToWebinar control panel. So our first question is, how does an international program at the doctoral level with no taught courses get accredited?
Huh. I'm not sure what that means with no taught courses, but I think you know, I know that in doctoral programs there is more emphasis on practical statistics and research-based programs and writing your dissertation. So I think that whoever that person is that set the question, I'd like a little more detail because we could review each of the principles and what sections would be important to include in the self-study.
Okay.
See if that would be if it is a program that as a standalone could be accredited.
Okay, great. So Lisa, if you could give us a little bit more information on that, we will answer that accordingly then. Okay, our next question here, an instructor holding an MBA degree with over 20 years of teaching experience outside sports but related to marketing. However, they have no research agenda. Where would this instructor fall under? Professionally qualified, minimally qualified? What courses would this instructor be able to teach?
Well, clearly this instructor would be qualified to teach courses in marketing, and that would really be the key as to how they might be classified, whether professionally or minimally. Because if they're teaching outside of the scope of either their degree or this 20 years of experience, then they would be considered minimally qualified. But if they're able to teach what draws upon their education and experience, then they could be considered professionally qualified.
Okay, great. Our next question, with a doctoral degree, would an individual be qualified to teach the sport law course? No research related to sport law field.
Can you read the question again?
The question is, with a doctoral degree, would an individual be qualified to teach the sport law course? It looks like they have no research related to the sport law field.
Okay, but they have a PhD in sport management.
Correct.
I suppose they could if there is no one else available, or if there's this particular reason why this individual is being tapped to teach that, you know, without any other support or extra training or requirement. They could. That would certainly be something to justify within the self-study. But if there is somebody else that has more experience or any experience in that area, then of course that person might be better to teach those kinds of courses.
Okay, great. Our next question here, for a master's program in sport management, other than having non-sport management undergraduate majors, take a number of sport management undergraduate courses to fulfill their CPC deficiencies, are there any other approaches?
Some master's programs may design their own, almost like a freshman seminar, but for the master's program, where they would review all those topic areas in an intense seminar or symposia kind of situation their first year. And that would, of course, occur simultaneous to them doing the graduate level work in sport management. They also might be required to take a course or courses similar to what I just described prior to being able to start their graduate work in that program. So those are just a couple of different ideas for how that might be done. And you know, that is not an exhaustive list, and I certainly would be interested to see different approaches for that. And if you have a master's program and you want some ideas, I certainly can provide you with some examples from what we've received as how other programs are approaching this. So you can email me about that if you're interested.
Great. So I have some follow-up here from our first question about the doctoral program with no taught courses.
Yeah.
It says the students here just do a thesis but do not actually take any taught courses. They have two supervisors who guide them but wouldn't actually submit any other work other than their thesis or actually have taught modules. The research elements, i.e. stats and methodology, are not actually taught, but their supervisors would assist and guide them individually.
Yeah, it sounds like an interesting and possible way to, it doesn't sound like that would rule it out for being able to be accredited. However, I think the more important part of that would be to explain what background the students have or what the guidelines for admission really are for that doctoral program. So even if there is no coursework, where did they come from? What is the background of the students? What is the minimum background of the students required for acceptance into that doctoral program? That would be probably more of what's described. Certainly there are, I would say really at the doctoral level, that would be more common, that it would be more of a practicum, or you're writing your thesis and you've done your coursework. So that would not happen at the master's level, or of course not the undergraduate level. So hopefully, Lisa, that's answering your question a little more carefully. But it would definitely, I think the admissions process and requirements of the incoming students would be where you would highlight what these individuals' qualifications are that would then allow them to just be writing a dissertation.
Great. Thank you. She says, yes, that makes sense. So great job.
Okay.
Our next question, sort of a follow-up to one of our previous questions. So do you suggest that each sport management program should have a faculty who holds a JD to teach the sport law class?
You know, even though I run COSMA, I definitely don't have that suggestion. I really am trying to help you interpret these principles and act as a liaison, you know, with the Board of Commissioners who makes those accreditation decisions. Certainly it helps if the faculty in your program have either the educational or professional qualifications to teach in the different areas of expertise, or of the different CPC areas. So if it's someone within your department, great, and if they have a JD, then certainly they're qualified to teach those courses. Or if you have to go outside and get a faculty member from another department to make the courses stronger, that could help. But as always, there's the balance between the person having that content area expertise, but also having the expertise in sport management. So keep those things in mind, that you are still, especially for the CPC areas, needing it not just to be a course on finance or a course on marketing, but a course on sport finance and sport marketing.
Great. Okay, our next question here. If a part-time faculty no longer teaches but have taught in the past, is a CV still needed?
Well, your self-study, and I don't think I've quite highlighted this, but the self-study as written should be about the previous academic year. So if that part-time faculty member was teaching during that year, then they would need to be included. But if they taught several years prior or at any other time, they don't have to be included. So
Perfect.
you're taking a snapshot of the academic year, and the academic year can be defined by, you know, fall semester, spring semester, or, you know, in one calendar year, spring semester, fall semester. I work with you to determine what that year is going to be.
Okay. Great. If anyone else has any other questions, please go ahead and submit those now. We just have a couple more to cover here. What would an ideal student-faculty ratio be?
Well, COSMA does not prescribe what that would be, but it certainly would depend on your program's mission, the goals, and the strategic plan. So as you prepare the self-study, that would definitely help you determine what the appropriate student-faculty ratio would be for your program. So if your emphasis is on more on teaching and more on advising, then that ratio would would likely, the lower that it is, the more effective that would be in accomplishing your goals.
Okay, great. Next question we have here, how many hours does a student need to complete in an internship?
Well, I'll just say that internships are not required. However, if you do have an internship, there is no minimum hour, but what you would do is you would show that you would look, this is a little bit outside of what we talked about today. This would be in Principle 7.4. You would talk about all the activities and linkages that you have within sport management, the industry, and any other relevant organizations. And you would describe the major contributions and accomplishments that you're trying to get out of an internship in that area. So there is no requirement in terms of hours.
Okay, great. Well, that was our last.
I will definitely talk about that more in the next webinar. So if you can attend, listen for that. But if you can't attend, you can always listen once we record it and put it on the website.
Great. Great. Okay. Well, thanks, Heather. That was our last question that we have here. Okay. So we can go ahead and wrap up. Thanks a lot, Heather, for providing this webinar for everyone.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's webinar. Don't forget that this webinar has been recorded and will be archived on the COSMA website. Instructions to access the recording will be emailed to you. You will see a webinar participant evaluation survey pop up on your screen after you exit the webinar. We would appreciate your feedback so that we can continue to improve our webinars for you. Please don't hesitate to contact us if you have any questions. Thank you again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.